Hello and welcome. I am Dr. Anil Joshi. Welcomes you to my series that is Learn Radiology with Dr. Anil Joshi. The series basically aims to give a basic idea about radiology to the radiology residents, those who are aspiring to be radiologists and those who are already in the radiology in the form of technicians or imaging courses they are undertaking. The basic aim is to understand how a X-ray is generated, how the X-rays are transmitted, how the image is formed and how the image is processed. Before all these things, they are on different lecture series, there are different videos made. So today's is a very basic, that is the how the X-rays were invented, what are the historical backgrounds of the radiology and how the X-ray works, that is how the X-ray tube works, which needs a X-ray generator, rectifier and diodes. So this is really a basic of the X-ray circuits and the X-ray production, but it is essential to know along with the historical aspect which we will be covering first. Now, before we go to the actual how the diodes, how the rectifiers, how the circuits of the X-rays are, let us go to certain historical aspects. Always said, nothing materializes as if there is any magic overnight. Even Röntgen discovery depended on multiple earlier discoveries by multiple earlier people who has contributed to it. He was not the only person who has invented it. There was requirement for him of certain things like electricity, then vacuum and magnetism. All these things were invented before Röntgen discovered the X-ray tubes. Now we are going to see it in subsequent speech how the development has really taken place. Initially there was the invention of electricity. The name electricity was given by a scientist called Gilbert. The name he has given, and Stephen Gray discovered that the current would flow through the conductor or over a great distance. So initially there was a discovery by a scientist called Gilbert, and there was a discovery that this electricity, that is the flow of electrons, can be either stored or they can be transmitted, that is they can be conducted through certain materials. These were the two inventions before the X-ray was invented by Röntgen. There was also a requirement of the vacuum before the X-ray tubes were invented. The X-ray tube invention was done by Otto van Guericke. That is Otto von Guericke in 1648. He developed a pump by which a vacuum can be created. So vacuum were created by Otto in 1648, and that was also contributed to the X-ray tube formation. Now, a combination of electricity flow and a vacuum that was invented by Mr. Francis in around same time when he had a very primitive machine of a rotator which was rotated with the hand, and electricity was produced and it was applied to a vacuum machine. Actually, X-ray of the invention of the X-ray started in 1785. It is not the Röntgen who discovered it first. In 1785, Sir William Morgan was the first to discover certain primitive components of the X-ray. What he found, he obtained a vacuum so that there was no discharge and the glass cracked. When he was doing this experiment, a glass cracked and it displayed colors. The colors were in the form of yellow, green, violet and blue. So unknowingly he invented the first production of X-rays, which not exactly was the X-rays but a sudden transformation of electrical energy into some other form of energy. He actually converted that into the form of yellow, green and red and violet, blue light after cracking of the vacuumated glass tube. So that was a initial thought that X-ray would have been developed. Now after that, in 1821, Michael Faraday was first to experiment on electrical discharge. fluorescence as the radiant matter of the fourth state. That is what he said. So Michael Faraday in 1821 saw that certain rays, when they hit certain objects, there is a fluorescence, or there is a conversion of that rays into a different type of energy form. So that was an invention by Michael Faraday in 1821. Now in 1870, what we are going to see in next slide, a glass vacuum tube. Yeah, that was invention in 1870 when William Hitov, he was a person who invented this vacuum and glass tubes. Now you can see at two anode and cathode attached to this tube. Now he discovered cathode rays. So cathode rays were discovered by William Hitov in 1870 with the help of the tubes which are shown here. Then there was a term of Mr. Philip Lenard. What he discovered was the cathode rays passes through a aluminum window. So X-rays were not exactly same what he had. They were cathode rays. Both were identical, but it is in primitive form, and what he observed was these cathode rays can pass through a aluminum window. So also these rays can cause a fluorescence to glow 5 centimeters of air in Lenard's ray. So that was called as, or that was stamped, or that was called as Lenard's ray. Had he used barium platinocyanide instead of pentadecyl, he would have discovered X-rays at that time. So he proposed also inverse square law at that time. So Philip Lenard was the first person to get the X-rays, but only thing, he had used barium platinocyanide instead of pentadecyl. So that was the only difference why he could not reach to what Röntgen reached. And then was a term of William Röntgen in 1895 in Germany. He has said very humbly that humanity owes honor and gratitude for discovering the most striking and outstanding properties of cathode rays, and that he named them as the X-rays. X-rays was a name given by him. In October 8, 1895, Friday evening, while researching on electrical discharge in a diluted gas, Crookes tube and Ruhmkorff's induction coil, a fluorescent screen glue, and that was the first time when he realized that certain energy transformations are taking place, and X-rays were produced when cathode rays encountered the matter. So that was the next step of discovery. Now the rays could not be reflected or refracted. They were unaffected by magnetic and electrical fields. That's why he terminated the name X-rays. X is unknown, and sometimes we call them as Röntgen rays. So these were the initial stage through which it has gone. Now still we are at the inventive stage. Now property of fluorescence and penetration when realized, a shadow casted on the screen. So that was the next step, that because of these rays he casted a shadow on the fluorescent screen. Now after 15 minutes, Betha, the first medical radiograph of the human body, was produced. That was the hand X-ray in December 22, 1895, and that was the first industrial radiograph, or that is called as Röntgen's shotgun. Now he had a publication over that. This new kind of X-rays were preliminarily communicated. A new kind of rays continued and further observed on a new kind of rays. In fact, the X-rays could be polarized and diffracted, but that was a properties discovered later on. He got a Nobel Prize in 1901. That was the first Nobel Prize in physics. So that's how the history of this X-rays goes. Now these are his house, that is how he experimented. This was the first radiograph he produced, and this was when he was awarded with the first Nobel Prize in 1901. Now we have to understand certain things while X-rays are produced. One of it is Bremsstrahlung radiation. Bremsstrahlung radiation is produced in a way it is shown below. Now we have got 3 electrons. They are named as 1, 2, 3. We have got a nucleus, and you see first is the one which incident electron goes and hit directly the nucleus. When the incident electron hits directly the nucleus, it gets impact with the nucleus with maximum energy and get converted into the X-rays. So that is the first condition. What happens? Second is the one which goes slightly away from the nucleus and it gets refracted. But while getting refracted, it has a close interaction, that is a moderate energy level, and it gets converted into the low energy X-rays. Now the third is the instant interaction, that is low Strahlung radiation. Now let us understand what is this Bremsstrahlung radiation. Now we have got a nucleus and we have got an incident electron. Now what is happening here is there are 3 electrons, 1, 2 and 3. When first is going, it is hitting directly the nucleus and it has got a high impact with maximum energy. Now let's go to the second condition. The incident electron is not hitting nucleus properly, but it is going away from the nucleus and getting deviated. But in spite of that, he is liberating certain energy which is of moderate level. Now because of the close interaction, there is a moderate radiation, or that is a moderate energy. Now third is the condition when it is away from it, it is distant, and because of the distant interaction, the energy produced are low. Now let us understand what all these things were. Now generation of characteristic X-ray in a target atom occurs in the following sequence. The incident electron interacts with K-shell electron via a repulsive electrical force. Number 2, the K-shell electron is removed only if the energy of the incident electron is greater than of K-shell binding energy, bound to be. Unless the incident electron has got more energy than the binding force, it cannot be liberated. Now that is the stage 2. Now stage 3, what happens is electron from the adjacent L shell or possibly of the different shell fills the vacancy. There is a vacancy and that is filled by the electron from adjacent level, that is from L. Now electron from adjacent L shell fills the vacancy. The K alpha characteristic X-ray photon is emitted with the energy equal to the difference between the binding energies of the 2 shells. In this case 99.3 keV electron, so photon is emitted. Now let us come to X-ray generator. The X-ray generator delivers electrical power to energize the X-ray tube and permits the selection of X-ray energy, X-ray quantity and exposure time. Now major internal component of the generator tube include transformers, diodes and rectifiers and filament circuits and kilovoltage and milliampere meters. Let us have certain basic understanding. First is the rectifier. As we have seen, the incidental electron has to hit in a single direction. So it has to go from one direction to another direction. There cannot be two directional flow of the electron. Otherwise, there will not be smooth or unidirectional production of the X-rays. Now, this is achieved by the means of rectifiers. What rectifier does is, it converts negative energy either into positive energy or it eliminates it. So if we see, we are going to see a electrical diagram, that is the waveform in which we'll know either a negative is cut off, that is the rectification, either complete, that is negative is converted into positive, or partial when only negative is cut off. So this we can call it as a conversion of AC into a DC current. That is done with the help of a rectifier. So that is the first is rectifier, which makes a unidirectional flow. Now diodes also do same work. Now diodes also ensure a unidirectional flow. It has a resistance in one direction, and that is the low resistance in one direction and very high resistance in other direction. So what diode does is, it has got low resistance and high resistance in one or the other side. So wherever there is very low resistance, that waveform can continue, and whatever there is a high resistance, that can be cut off. So diode can work to eliminate the other portion, that is reverse flow of the electrons. Now third thing which comes here are called as capacitors. Capacitors are used to control the charge. Now see here, what are the components of generator? Is the control desk, from where you control your kV, MA, ATC. Then second is a microprocessor. The third is the interference controller. Fourth is a service. Fifth is a kV selector, MA selector, focal spot selector. That will know in detail when we are going to study a tube, and it is a different lecture altogether in which we have covered what is a small focus, what is a large focus, but here it has come as a circuit diagram. Then film density selector and fluoro selector. These are the component of a generator. You can see it in a diagram also. Now what is electromagnetic induction? This is also one of the important things we should know. That is, changing magnetic field induces electronic force. So if you change any magnetic field, it can induce electricity in another coils. Now here you can see first is a forward motion. That is the first diagram. It induces electron flow in the conductors. So see this, there are magnet which moves towards the coil, and we can see there is a flow of electrons. Now let us come to the second. Now in this, what is happening? The movement is reverse. It is away from the coil. So if you can see the arrows, the direction of arrow is different. So when this movement is occurring, there is a flow of direction which is changing from one side to another side, depending on the movement, whether it is towards the coil or away from the coil. Now let us come to another entity that is called as transformers. What are transformers? Transformer, when you want to change certain electricity from one stage to another stage. Suppose you want a either increase in output energy or decrease in output energy. So there are two types of transformer. One is called as stage up or state up, or the second is called stage down transformer. So step up and step down, stage 1 or stage 2 are the transformers which are used in X-ray. Now see how it is done. It is done with the help of coils. There are two windings. One thing is called primary winding and second is called as the secondary winding. Now there will be, when current will flow from the primary coils, it will induce a magnetic field. This magnetic field will travel through the coils or core, what they call as. From the core, when it goes to the opposite side, it will induce induction electricity. Now see what is the flow of electricity? It is from either side. What is the flow in primary winding? Either side. What is the flow in secondary? Is in either side. So here we have got two entities, step up or step down. Now how it is designed? Let us go to the next one. Now see the first one. First one, the primary has got less coil and secondary has got more coil. Look at the wave, primary receiving, and look at the wave, the secondary. Wavelength in secondary has shortened. So it will be a step up transformer. If you give 100 volts, it will put out more than 100 volts. And how much more volt you want depend on the coils. Now second is the isolation transformer. In that is what is happening is the primary and secondary will have same number of coils. In that only the direction will change, but there will not be neither step up nor step down. There will not be step up or step down. Only the direction will change. The wavelength of input and wavelength of output remain same. They will not change. And third is the step down transformer. Now in step down transformer, what is happening is, when I have got more number of coils in a primary and less number of coils in a secondary, the voltage from the secondary will be less than that of the primary. Now depending on how much voltage you want, you can have change in the coil rotations. Now in tube it is different applications are a different form. Third is the auto transformer. In auto transformer, what is there? If you can see, we had earlier the different type of winding to a different core. Here the core is changed. Here it is a single core. Now there are already winds in primary and secondary, and you have got secondary which has got a slider. Now the slider goes up and down. It will have voltage depending on the slider is going up, where number of coils in the secondary will be more or secondary will be less. According to that, you will get voltage into the output. So if you put 120 in, you will get 120 in, then you will get output as 60 volt or less than that. If you consider less coils, now here there are 10 rounds, 10 rotations. Out of that, if you select 5, you will get only half the voltage. Instead of 120, you will get step down as the 60 volt. Now diodes. Diodes are essentially meant to ensure that the electric flow will be in direction. As we have seen just now, we have seen the electrical wave. It has got both sides. So every time it will be a forward direction of electrons, and at one stage it will be on the negative side, or that is on the other side. So if that is happening, there will not be continuous flow of X-rays. So what diode ensures you that you will get a unidirectional flow. Flow will be in single direction. There will not be any reverse bias. There will be only a forward bias. Now how it is achieved is because of the resistance. It has got two circuits, out of which one side there is a resistance, high resistance. On that side there will not be flow of current, and other there will be low resistance. So it will have a unidirectional, depending on the forward bias or reverse bias as it is shown in the diagram. With that, it will be ensured that the current will flow in only one direction. Now let us come to rectifier. Basic aim of rectifier is to convert AC current into DC current. Now if you see the two waveforms which are shown as A and below the diagram is B, let us presume it as, if you see waveform, there is a positive side in the upper one diagram and lower has got showing as negative. Now if you want either of it, it can work. It will suppress one cycle. So this will be known partial rectification, or second will be called as full wave. Now this is half rectification and full rectification. Now how the designs of the two circuits are? In the upper circuit, the positive is retained, and in negative circuit, the negative is retained. So if you see the first image, there will be an up slope, and in second you will see is the second one getting converted into a upper one, that is positivity. So both will have positivity. The negative will get converted into positivity. This is called full wave rectification. There are different type of current a tube needs. One thing is for the filament and second is for the X-ray generation itself. So this is widely covered into the X-ray tube designs. Here only what we are saying is, from same transformer, by selecting less number of coils in auto transformer, you can get a low voltage also, which is fed to the low one is fed to the filament. Now this is the thing which gives you the difference between a filament current and a tube current. Come to generators. Several designs of X-ray generators of varying complexity and cost are currently in use. There are single-phase generator, three-phase generator, and constant potential generators. Now, high-frequency generators are also available in recent X-ray machines. Now, these are the X-ray circuits by which these type of designs are achieved. Now see first, we have applied 60 Hertz AC line. That is our routine, what we get. Now this is something, let us presume this as called as low voltage. Then it goes to a transformer. What transformer has done it? It has converted into a high voltage but with less wavelength. Now when it passes, it goes to a rectifier, and what rectifier has done is the negative side is converted into a positive side, so it is full rectification. So that is how a single directional flow is achieved to the tube of desired requirement. Or it has got a high voltage, then it has got a unidirectional flow because of the help of the diode and rectifiers. This is voltage ripples depending on types of generator, a single phase, a two phase, and third is medium high frequency inverters. Now these are the designs of three-phase generators. We can see here the increase in efficiency. When we go to the from first image, we go to second image, same as before, and when we go to the third image, we can see the 6 pulse per cycles from initially low voltage, then transform converts into high voltage, but with the frequency is high, the wavelength is low, and then it is converted by the rectifiers into the unidirectional flow. Now in this circuit, we must have seen that voltage never drops to zero. Excess are continuously produced. Why? Because there is never 0 volt. Always there is a current flowing from one side to another side, or anode to cathode. And since it is a continuous flowing, there is never a voltage drop, or there is never a drop in the excess production. And because of this, exposure time can be dropped as low as 1 in 1 portion of the 1000 second. Now, advantage of three-phase equipment is higher cost and size of the unit is slightly bulky. So in portable unit, in dental unit, we use a single phase generator. Now we have also seen a pulses. 6 pulse and 12 pulse are the two generators, and this is a design, how a design is made from 3 phase and 12 pulse. This generator gives 360 pulses per second. So this is high frequency because they have used 6 rectifiers. Here it is 12 pulse. Now then is the constant potential generator. Constant potential generators are so named because of their ability to produce a high voltage waveform with essentially no voltage ripple. Essentially, they are DC and a constant potential. This is preferred waveform because the electrons are accelerated at a even potential difference throughout the exposure. A high effective energy beam and greater tube output is obtained with the help of this DC waveform. Now this is the circuit diagram for the same. What it does is conversion of a low frequency, low voltage input into a high frequency, low voltage. A waveform that produces high frequency, high voltage output waveform at the steps. Now we come to a summary. The XA quality is approximately proportional to this formula. Z is a target, X is a kVp square, and then is a ms. The XA quality depends on the kVp, the generator waveforms, and the tube filtration. The exposure depends on both the quality and quantity of the XA beam. We have seen briefly, very briefly, the designs of the transformers. What is the primary, what is the secondary, what is the induction. Then we have also seen what are the types of full wave rectification, then partial rectification. We have seen what are the designs of the larger machines, what are the designs of the small portable machines, Then we have also seen what is the design of a dental machine, that is the single phase machines, and they are small. Then there is a partial rectification, and because of that the dental unit has got a small size. And with all these things, we are coming to end of a portion of radio physics. In this lecture we have covered. There are more lectures as far as X-ray tubes are concerned, X-ray circuits are concerned, and what is the process of the X-ray, how the X-rays are imaged in a CR, in a DR, in conventional, what is the darkroom technique, what is darkroom. There are different lectures covering all these things. With this, I thank you for giving me your valuable time. Please note, radiology is not a race, it's a process. Be a part of this process and enjoy the feast of knowledge. I am Dr. Anil Joshi, logging off till we meet again. Try to understand X-ray designs, try to understand a difference between a single phase, three phase generators, try to understand what is a full rectification, partial rectification, and how it will make a betterment in the image. That will give you an idea which machine you should prefer, and when you want to do a good quality work, what should be the ultimate machine quality. So with this, I thank you today. I wish you all the luck, and also I request you to do your best to get a good quality X-ray so that the patient can be benefited.